Halloween in Dandy's world still feels like it's a long way off, but BlushCrunch Studio has already started the countdown to one of the most anticipated times of the year for players. And if you think this is just an early post with no real meaning, you might want to pay closer attention. Because the way the studio has started talking about Halloween could be a sign that this year's event is going to be much bigger than we're expecting. It's been a while since Dandy's World had a truly major event. And when I say major event, I mean the kind that actually changes the atmosphere of the game, introduces its own currency, brings special skins, new content, and themed maps. We're talking about events like Easter, Christmas, and especially Halloween. Easter happened back in March, and a lot has changed in the game since then. New toons have been added, new mechanics have been introduced, and we've gotten several smaller updates. But we still haven't gotten another major seasonal event. And now we're in August. After August comes September. And then, right after that, October, the month when many games officially start preparing for Halloween. That's usually when maps start becoming darker, characters get Halloween-themed skins, and developers begin dropping clues about what's coming next. But BlushCrunch Studio decided to start even earlier. Recently, the studio posted a Halloween-related image on YouTube, along with a countdown. The post showed that there were 79 days left until Halloween. Now, a few days later, that number has already gone down. And that's interesting because this wasn't just some random image posted for no reason. BlushCrunch Studio is literally counting down the days. So the big question is, why? The first thing that stands out in the image is the Halloween setting and the appearance of a familiar Twisted. At first glance, there doesn't seem to be any huge secret hidden there. It could simply be a promotional image reminding the community that the event is coming. But there's one important detail. Halloween takes place on October 31st, while the countdown posted by the studio seems to point to a date very close to the beginning of November. And that could mean a few different things. Maybe the countdown is actually connected to the official start of the event, rather than Halloween itself. Maybe this year's event will begin later than the previous one. Or maybe BlushCrunch is simply laying the groundwork far in advance for an update that hasn't been revealed yet. And honestly, that last possibility is the one that gets me the most interested. Because if they're already talking about Halloween this far in advance, there's a good chance the event has been in development for quite some time. And that brings us to the biggest question. What can we actually expect from this year's Halloween event? First, it's almost impossible to talk about the event without mentioning special currencies. Just like before, there's a very good chance the event will once again have its own themed currency, which players can use to purchase exclusive items. And that means anyone who wants to get everything from the event will need to start preparing, because it might not just be the toons coming back. Halloween skins could return too. And for players who already own the event characters, that means there could still be plenty of things to spend their currency on. So, if you're the type of player who immediately spends all your resources whenever you get something new, it might be a good idea to start saving now. But there's an even more interesting possibility: new skins. The previous Halloween event already introduced several themed skins, but there's no reason to assume BlushCrunch will simply repeat the exact same content. A new event is the perfect opportunity to introduce brand new looks, new rewards, and new ways for players to spend the event currency. And there's another possibility that could be even more important: the maps. During the first Halloween event, we had a more limited amount of themed content. That makes sense since it was the first time Dandy's World had ever received an event like this. But we've seen the events evolve since then. The Christmas event, for example, featured more than one themed map, so it would make perfect sense for this year's Halloween event to introduce a brand new map as well. And maybe that Halloween setting shown in BlushCrunch Studio's post is actually a clue. Of course, we can't say for sure that it's a completely new map. The image could simply be showing a version of a map we already know, or a themed area that will only be used during the event. But if it really is a new map, that could open the door to something the community absolutely loves: more lore. Dandy's World has been using its maps to reveal important information about its characters. So a new Halloween map wouldn't just have to make the game look scarier, it could also hide information about characters we still don't know much about. And there's one toon in particular who could receive a lot more attention during this event: Gordy. If Gordy continues to be connected to Halloween, this would be the perfect opportunity to expand his story, reveal more about his past, or finally show us details we haven't seen before. But it doesn't have to be about Gordy alone. There are several toons whose stories are still largely unknown. Characters like Eclipse, Rebecca, and others could potentially receive new information through interactions, maps, or event content. And that brings us to one of the most interesting theories, a brand new Halloween exclusive Toon. Right now, this is only a possibility. There's no confirmation that a new Toon will be released for the event. But think about it. At some point, seasonal events need new ways to surprise players, and introducing a Toon directly connected to Halloween would be one of the most obvious ways to do that. We could get a character inspired by a classic Halloween creature, like a bat, a living cauldron, or even a completely original supernatural creature. And there's another character who, for a very different reason, could also have an interesting connection to this theory. Waxwell. Ever since Waxwell was introduced, a lot of people have connected him to concepts that could easily fit into a Halloween event. After all, a candle fits perfectly with a darker, more mysterious aesthetic. Of course, that doesn't mean Waxwell was specifically created for Halloween, but it would be interesting to discover that he was originally designed around a concept that could have been connected to the event. And there are plenty of other concepts that could work too. For example, a Toon based on a cauldron could have an ability involving a substance that slows down Twisteds. Another concept could involve a creature accompanied by a tiny bat, capable of attacking a Twisted and draining its stamina. These are just community ideas, but they show one thing. There's a lot of room for BlushCrunch to create something completely different. And maybe the biggest addition to Halloween won't even be a Toon. Maybe it will be a completely new type of event. The Halloween event could introduce a floor experience unlike anything we've seen before. Imagine entering a seemingly normal map and suddenly realizing that something is moving underneath the floor. Creatures resembling the undead could emerge from the ichor, mimicking the behavior of nearby Twisteds. If a Twisted started chasing a specific Toon, these creatures could copy that behavior. Or maybe Halloween could introduce some kind of fog, a fog that makes players see things that aren't actually there. Imagine walking through the map and suddenly seeing a Toon or a Twisted standing in the distance, only for it to disappear the moment you get close. That would create a much more terrifying Halloween atmosphere without relying entirely on a new visual design. And a mechanic like that could be exactly what separates this year's event from the previous ones. Because there's one thing BlushCrunch has already shown us several times. These events can evolve. Easter had its own unique features. Christmas introduced new ideas. And now Halloween has the opportunity to go even further. Maybe we'll get new maps. Maybe new skins. Maybe new Twisteds. Maybe a brand new Toon. Maybe a new mechanic. Or maybe all of it at once. And that's exactly why that simple countdown post caught so much attention. BlushCrunch Studio didn't have to start talking about Halloween this early, but they chose to. And when a studio starts building hype more than 2 months in advance, it's hard not to wonder if there's something much bigger being planned behind the scenes. None of these theories are confirmed, but they definitely make the wait a lot more exciting. Now I want to hear what you think. What do you think BlushCrunch Studio is preparing for this year's Halloween event? Do you think we'll get a new map, a brand new Halloween exclusive Toon, new skins, a completely new type of event? Or are they preparing something that nobody in the community has even predicted yet? If you already have a Halloween theory, let me know down in the comments because I want to hear what you think is coming to Dandy's World. And if you enjoyed this video and want to keep up with all the upcoming clues and Dandy's World news, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because now that the countdown has officially begun, every new post from BlushCrunch Studio could be hiding another clue. And maybe the next reveal will finally show us what's really coming this Halloween.